Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If this is your first time, please be sure to subscribe. I try to put out new videos every single Thursday, maybe come holiday season, which obviously is among us. I'm going to try to be putting out videos maybe a little bit more often, so let me know if that's something that you would like. And this is actually a video that I did over on my Instagram a while ago that people seem to be really into. And a question that I'm asked a lot is, how do you learn about the art world? How do you learn about, the ins and outs and different artists and all these things? And honestly, for me, the best way I learn about things is to read. I just read books about it, and that really helps me learn about stuff. I know that sounds pretty straightforward, but it just is the most effective thing for me, and that's absolutely how I learned a lot of the ins and outs of the art world. And so I wanted to share some of my recommendations for books, basically from any single level. I've almost ordered them from, like, if you know absolutely nothing about art all the way to the more advanced. So even if you are working in the art industry, maybe you work at a gallery, maybe you are a gallery director, maybe you work for a museum, you'll still appreciate a lot of these picks in here, I will say. So let's start with, if you know absolutely nothing about the art world. Gonna get comfortable for this. So this is a book, and yes, I do try to buy a lot of used books, so if you see stickers or anything on here, it's just a lot more sustainable to do so. And so this is called the 20th Century Art Book, and this is actually a book that I've had since high school when I was in a lot of art classes. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually started my life, I wouldn't call it a career because I was in school, but I started college as an art major, as a painting major, before I ended up transferring and studying industrial engineering. So I've studied art for quite a long time, and I've taken many art history classes, but before I'd even taken a college art history class, I had this book, and it's honestly the best way. It's a great bathroom book, honestly, to just have, and it kind of goes through every single modern contemporary artist that you would ever need to know about, and it just kind of talks about why they're important, shows maybe one of their more famous artworks, for example, Salvador Dali, you have melting clocks. It's just a really great resource to kind of learn like art history one-on-one, but through a contemporary lens. So definitely would recommend this. And I'll also leave all of the links to these books down below. If I can make like an Amazon list of these, I will do so for you guys. But yeah, that's the 20th Century Art Book, first pick. And then this is one that I love. You actually don't have to be super into art. This is really any creative, I think, will find this super interesting. It's called The Daily Rituals of Women at Work. And I love this book because I find that it helps me to understand sort of like the practicalness behind someone and their practice. I think a lot of times we're looking at people's highlight reel instead of their sort of day-to-day basis. And this just covers like a lot of different ways that creatives work, essentially, and they kind of fall into like a lot of different categories. I'll try to look in here and see what we have. Yeah, they're very funny categories. It's like weirdness, oysters and champagne, the vortex, boredom and suffering, neglect, abnormal life, deadly determination. It just kind of covers like all walks of life and how they essentially create, which I think is really cool. So that is a great book, and it's a very fast read. It's one of those that maybe if you just need a little pick-me-up at the end of the day and you want to have a nice little 20-minute sit down with some tea or something, this is a great one. Put that there. Now, here's where we really start getting into like the business of art, the actual art industry. These are two books, both by the same artist, Sarah Thornton, and honestly, they cannot be beat. If you want to learn about the art world, these are two books that I cannot recommend more. There's 7 Days in the Art World. See, I've read it so much, it's literally covered in coffee stains. It's disgusting, but I do love this book. And it essentially goes through 7 basic parts of the art world, a series of day in the life narratives set in New York, Los Angeles, London, Basel, Venice, and Tokyo. 7 Days in the Art World explores the dynamics of creativity, taste, status, money, and the search for meaning in life. That's a great read. But this is wonderful. And then her second book is even more complimentary to 7 Days in the Art World. This is 33 Artists in 3 Acts. And so this is a little bit of a follow-up. She basically goes behind the scenes of different artists' psyches, personas, politics, and social networks. And it is just fascinating. She talks about museums, art fairs, like the whole gamut, and a lot of the artists that are involved in all those things. So it is very good, and I would highly recommend these 2 books out of everything I have on the list today. If you don't know anything about the art world, these are a great way to get started and to learn. And kind of along that note as well, this is one that I'm reading right now. I'm almost finished with it, and I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely along the same lines as Sarah Thornton. Again, a year in the art world, kind of similar vibes, but this one's by Matthew Israel. He is a curator, writer, and art historian. He worked at Artsy for a while, and yeah, this is a year-long journey through the contemporary art world, uncovering the working lives of artists, curators, galleries, and critics, revealing what they really do. So like I mentioned, I love a behind-the-scenes dive into people's day-to-day. When I go and I might interview an artist, I always ask them what does your day-to-day look like? You know, when do you come into the studio? When do you work? How do you recharge? I don't know. I just find that so interesting. It's kind of like watching the special features of a movie where they tell you how it's created. I just love that, and that's exactly kind of what Matthew Israel does. Also, if you are in high school and you're gonna go and study art in college, I would really recommend reading these books prior to, because this will also help you understand all of the different jobs that are out there, all of the different things you can do in the art world, because it's certainly not just being a painter in a studio. There are thousands of jobs that surround the art world that you could be a part of if you're interested in that. So I would definitely read these books if you want to have sort of an inside view on what the heck you want to do with your life. How are you going to feed yourself? You know, stuff like that. So I would definitely give his book a read. That's been one of my newer favorites. And this one, I think you're noticing a sad theme here, as I drink a lot of water and things and coffee around my books, but I do love them. And so this one is called Art World, and this is a little more advanced than the ones that I've mentioned before. So this is definitely for someone that you like to go to galleries, you want to learn a little bit more about the in and outs on a deeper level. I would read this one, Art World, The New Rules of the Game by Barbara Guggenheim. And Barbara Guggenheim, yes, the Guggenheim family, she is an art advisor, and yeah, she gives a really interesting picture of the industry and dives obviously a little bit more into the role of an art advisor, how they're valuable, sometimes when they're not, who to steer clear of. But she gives a really interesting overview as well of a lot of famous collectors and how people have built out their collection. So if you're interested in collecting art or starting to collect art, this is a really great book to read. So yeah, very much enjoyed that for that overview. This honestly is one of my personal favorites in this entire stack. It is called Boom. Oh my god, this is so entertaining, but I will say it is very much the names and the galleries and everything. If you don't know a ton about the art world, you might not find this as fascinating, but I, as you know, go to a lot of galleries, know a lot of artists, and every page I was just oh my gosh, this person dated this person. It's really good. Boom, Mad Money, Mega Dealers, and the Rise of Contemporary Art. It's fascinating. They talk about sort of all the main mega galleries like Pace, Gagosian, David Zwirner, and sort of how they got to where they are now, and it is really great. It is a good page turner book. So if you know anyone that works in the art industry, if they haven't already read this book, it's a great gift for them. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites in this stack for sure. I'm violently this is a great book, but it's wonderful. And these 2 books get into a lot more of an academic realm. So if you like a lot of heavy data and you want to actually understand sort of the economics behind the art world, then these 2 books are going to be nice. They're both by the same author, Don Thompson. And I will say I definitely found these to be a little more dry. This is the Supermodel and the Brillo box, and this is the $12 million stuffed shark. It's not going to be like you can have fun when you read this. I think it just depends on your personality type, but it's not something that I sit down and I'm like reading super fast and flipping through. It's something I might actually want to like take a few notes on while I'm reading. It's a lot more like educational around the inner depths of the art market and pricing and sort of, like I said, the economics behind it all. So these are two really great books that kind of cover the art world in that vein. And then we are diving into this one I picked up at the Periton bookstore because honestly, Maurizio Cattelan is one of my absolute favorite artists. He is, I would like to think if I was an artist that I would be like him, but that is hilariously wishful thinking. He is just so tongue-in-cheek, so fascinating, so, sorry, I just burped. So to learn about his entire career and sort of how he got where he is, this is such a good artist book. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it's called All for a reason because it's talking about his whole career, his entire life. And this one is just such a good read. It'll really give you a lot more appreciation for him as an artist if you don't know him. Maybe you just know about his golden toilet. RIP, it got stolen, so sad. But yeah, this one is such a good book. And speaking of, look, there's a little golden toilet on the back. That's so funny. Yeah. And this last one is, it is a read. This is 9th Street Women and by Mary Gabriel. I've said this before and I still stand by it. It is a little more dry. It's a lot more academic. It's a lot more deeply going into the history, but it's such an interesting book to dive into these women's lives, and it really tells this important narrative that I think, I mean, now it's gaining a lot more attention and a lot more traction, but a lot of people would just be like, oh, like this is like, you know, Jackson Pollock's wife. Like, you know, they never really were appreciating these women as the incredible artists that they were, and really the pioneers of the abstract expressionism movement, in addition obviously to the men that they knew and were friends with as well, but they played such a huge part in that. And I love that this book is really finally talking about that and telling that story and giving us a little insight into these really incredible women. So the 9th Street Women, if you didn't know, are Lee Krasner, Elaine de Kooning, Grace Hardigan, Joan Mitchell, Helen Frankenthaler, and yeah, these are the 5 painters that and the movement that changed modern art, and that is very true. So this is a great one. Definitely a good read, actually, just to like maybe read over the holidays when you have a little bit of free time. But overall, these are all of the books that I love and would recommend. And because I am who I am, I have an entire cube in my bookshelf that is devoted to just all of my art books. So these are some of my absolute favorites. If you have more that I haven't talked about here, please let me know. I'm always looking for a good read. I personally, when I read, I like to kind of flip-flop fiction or nonfiction. So these are great ones to dive into when I'm looking for a nonfiction read and just to learn and to keep discovering more about the art world, because there's always something new to learn in this industry, which is kind of the best part of it. So let me know, and like I said, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. It means a lot to me to keep growing this audience and to get to know you guys. So thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.